is Crystal Gazing Cashew Kernel Market, Review and Outlook. May I invite the moderator of the session, Mr. Walter D'Souza, Chairman, Fernandez Brothers. Mr. Walter D'Souza. We will also have joining him on the panel, Mr. Chen Ying, Director, Oils and Cereals, CCC FNA, Mr. Cheng Hong Kei, Managing Director, CHK Trading Company Limited, Mr. Deepta Gupta, Executive VP, Bikaner Vala Foods Private Limited, Mr. George Ishiguro, Managing Director, Blackstone Corporation, Japan, Mr. Vincent Rickman, ATCO, Mr. Mark Rosenblatt, the Richard Franco Agency, Inc.
Good evening, friends. Last session of this day, we are behind schedule by 65 minutes, just 65 minutes. And I request my eminent panelists to be as brief as possible. Extremely happy to present this very important subject, crystal gazing. The cashew market has seen roller coaster drives year on year, and we have more than 80% of the global cashew consuming panelists here. And we will straight away go for our presentations. On the panel, we have Mark Rosenblatt, the US market, which has been steadily supporting the cashew trade from the time cashews came into existence in this world. Mark is a third-generation entrepreneur from the house of Richard Franco Agencies, which was founded in 1947. Mark has been there for the last 12 years, handling key operations in this organization. Mark will now make his presentation on the market situation in the US, the way the US market has grown, and he will also make a review and the outlook for the future, especially 2018. Over to Mark Rosenblatt from Richard Franco Agencies.
Hello. Thank you, Walter, for that very nice introduction. And thank you to the WCCE for hosting this and inviting us here. And thank you all for staying here past 5 p.m. I was asked to keep this brief to about 5 minutes, so I'm going to do my best to comply with that. I'm going to talk about a few key points briefly. One is about the volume change over the last year. There's reports that the volume increased from 2016 to 2017 despite the price increases. So I want to touch on that and also talk about the impact of the price increases on the market. Going to get a little bit into explain lag time and how that impacts things. I'll mention new product introductions briefly, and then I'll get into very quickly about FSMA and food safety. There's been a lot of reports that volumes have increased over the last year from 2016 to 2017, that we imported more volume. At the same time, if you talk to most of the retailers and most of the roasters, they say that these prices are in fact impacting consumption and that it's having an adverse effect and consumption is somewhat down. So how do we bridge the gap between these two things? There's a number of factors. For one, in 2016, we entered the market with a lot of carry-in, to the point that some warehouses were so full they couldn't take more space. By the time we got to 2017, many buyers were going hand to mouth, and the warehouses were essentially empty or very low. So in 2016, we were able to use that excess inventory to buffer the market, while in 2017, everything that was consumed had to be imported. Trying to do all this from memory. Another thing that happened was there ended up being some delays in shipments in 2016 because of the shortage, because of the high prices. A number of shipments were delayed, so buyers actually received less than they expected that year. There were a number of other aspects that caused delays. or that impacted it. Overall, the general feeling was that consumption was about normal, but these other factors played a role and resulted in less product coming in, or more product coming in 2017. So what's going on and what's the impact of the prices on the market? For one, if you talk to many people, they say the prices are having an adverse effect. But it takes a long time. Often we find it can be a year or more from the time prices change in the FOB market for that to be reflected on the retail shelf. Even in Q1, many retailers and roasters are reporting that prices are going up, even though the FOB market has been relatively consistent. Let's see if I can get this slide. Here we go. Even though prices have been relatively consistent, on the FOB market, retail prices are increasing. A big part of this is because of lag time in the market. So let's say right now, the prices on the shelf now were set about 6 to 9 months ago. As an example, if you're planning for what you're going to be selling now on the shelf, you may sign a contract in July of 2017 that would ship from September to December. The product then goes into the warehouse for a couple months. It takes a month or two to roast it, salt it, package it. Then it has to get to the retail, or sits on the shelf, and finally gets purchased and consumed. That can often be 9 months. There's also a general resistance at retail to increasing the prices. So at first they cut the margins a little and try and avoid it, hoping, especially in this environment, many retailers thought the price would come back down. They said, okay, we can take a short-term hit. But as the prices stay high for longer, they have no choice but to increase the price on the retail shelf. So prices are continuing to increase, and we are getting feedback that that is going to have some impact on consumption. However, offsetting some decline in existing products, we have a lot of new products coming online, and that's helping to offset the challenge. While in the past there's been mainly roasted and salted cashews, either in a straight pack or mixed nuts, we now have unsalted product, organic product, raw cashews being sold and consumed raw is becoming very popular. We're seeing a lot more trail mixes with cashews in a product with granola, dried fruit, chocolate, other types of things. More and more we're finding bars that are including cashew nuts. And we've also seen a lot of growth in cashew milk and cashew butter. Essentially, the health news of cashews is spurring people to find more creative ways of getting the cashews out there, putting it in more products. And that's helping spur some new growth. Finally, I wanted to briefly talk about food safety. A few years ago, the U.S. passed a law, the Food Safety Modernization Act, and as especially applies to our industry, a part of it, the Foreign Supplier Verification Program. This is the law in the U.S. If a U.S. company wants to import, they can only buy from suppliers who are compliant. They have no choice. They must do it, and if a processor wants to sell to the U.S., they have to comply with these requirements. First and foremost, if it's not written down, the U.S. government says it doesn't happen. So everything needs to be thoroughly documented. Some of the documents processors will be asked for is a HACCP plan, a third-party audit, and then specific food safety concerns that apply to cashews, whether it's farm material procedures, site safety, or allergen controls. You must also have a preventive controls qualified individual within the processor. This means you can't just bring in a consultant to create a plan and then leave and feel that you're done. You have to have an individual who understands food safety, who was trained within the company to continue to implement and monitor the program. Customers' expectations are increasing. More and more, they're looking for GFSI certified factories. That means either a BRC or an FSSC 22000 certification. And the expectations are going to continue to grow. Processors should expect to have requests they've never seen before, and should continue to push the envelope in this way. The industry is doing well, but it will need to continue to improve to meet future customer expectations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. That's wonderful. I think we're going to be on schedule. From the US, we move on to Europe, and we have Mr. Vincent Rickman, Director, German ATCO Group, and also ATCO Vietnam, the leading trader, producer, repackers of various commodities, and also the INC ambassador for Germany, who will give us the perspectives on Europe, a review of the market that has gone by, and the outlook for the future. Over to Mr. Vincent Rickman.
Okay, hello, good evening, everybody. I hope you're still up and awake. It's been a long day, so I will also try to be quick with my presentation. I hope this thing works here. Okay, so let me quickly start with a rough market segmentation. This is pretty much basic to you, but I will come with the trends later on why I go into this detail. Talking about some trends we are seeing in Europe at the moment, about the challenges we all have or we had, and a quick summary and outlook where we are going. Basically, the cashew market in Europe can be divided into three segments. They're basically the main business, the traditional roasted, salted business, traditional snacking business. This is the big thing, but basically it's stagnant, so that's not growing much anymore. The big thing is the raw consumption, raw packs, plain packs, just as it is for dried fruit and nut mixtures and other things. So this area is growing. And the last bit, which we are a little bit behind, I mean, Mark had a couple of good examples for nice new product development in the US. Europe is a little bit behind, but I think that's the future. We need to go more to promote cashew as a food ingredient. The trends we are seeing in Europe is pretty much overall, not just on cashews, healthy snacking, healthy food. So overall in all food products, people are looking for alternatives with less fat, less salt, less sugar, in general less additives, so mainly just untreated products. So this is the big thing in Europe at the moment. This paired with rising consumer expectations in general, so we are seeing that consumers, they are willing to spend more money on food. So price is often not the real problem. Overall, the European economy also got stronger after we had a couple of difficult years since the European economic crisis, but that's behind us. So now there is the chance and the room for new product developments. The consumers are desperately looking for new products, and also the food industry, they are willing to invest in develop new products. But we have a couple of challenges here. So first of all, the high price. I mean, we've talked about this on this conference already, so I'm not going to go into the complete detail. I mean, one thing is also relevant for the European market, as Mark discussed in the US market. Even though the price, which is kind of interesting, this is different to the US, the price in euro for us in Europe is actually cheaper at this time of the year than last year because of the exchange rate being now around 125 and not like 105 a year ago. So therefore, I'm a little bit more optimistic for cashew in general because the price is cheaper. However, everybody or most supermarkets in Europe just increased 4 weeks ago the prices for cashews because the annual 2018 contracts were all done in autumn 2016. This was before the exchange rate increased so much. So therefore, at the moment, we do expect some consumption to lose this year. So far, we haven't lost it. I would say so far the price point was more hindering further growth. So it was stagnant, but not declining yet. So we have to hope it stays that way. Another interesting point is that at the moment cashews are in competition with other competing nuts. We see a lot of substitution between like cashews, almonds, walnuts, hazelnut, depending on their usage. The last years when cashews were already high, these other competing nuts were also high in price. At the moment, most of the competing nuts are trading at much lower levels. So this is something to keep in mind. So my message is price, of course, is a problem, especially as we want to grow the cashew consumption, but it's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem, as you might think, is the quality. I mean, obviously, we had big quality issues in general on holes with high moisture, high serious defects, overall bad texture, they were not crunchy. On splits and pieces, which are going into, which we want to promote much, much more in the food industry sector. We also had foreign material problems, FFA and so on. So this is really playing against what I explained earlier, the market segment. We don't want to grow in roasting and salting, fatty salted. We want to grow in healthy snacks. We want to grow as a food ingredient. And here we have the problem. The raw packs or plain packs of cashews, the product goes directly into consumption the way it's received from the cashew producer. So a lot of users in Europe, they don't have any additional cleaning facilities or sorting, so just they take the product as it is and put it on shelf. So therefore, these customers are much more dependent on a high quality. The area of food ingredients is in competition with highly sophisticated food ingredients such like diced almonds or diced hazelnuts, which are produced on a very continuous quality level. Whereas a lot of loads of cashew pieces were very inconsistent in quality. So this is making it very difficult in this interesting period of new product development for R&D departments and companies to produce or to bring new products consisting cashews on the market because they are afraid that they cannot rely on a consistent quality supply. And this is the period, this is the thing we need to work on. Okay, to sum up a little bit, which is a good news for all of us, the perception of cashew is very good. People love cashew because it is considered to be a healthy, natural product. And also with the research, also the INC has done, and there are new studies on the way to prove the positive health benefits of cashews. So it's the right time and the right item. So this is positive. As I said already in this short speech, the biggest growth potential for cashews we are seeing on the raw and in food ingredients, and there again, the quality is important, otherwise there will be no new developments. And the consumers, they are actually willing to pay a high price or a good price for cashews, but only as long as the price and the quality are in line. The only problem is the disconnect. So if somebody buys a low-grade cashew at a low price, that's fine. But if somebody pays a high price and expects a high-quality cashew, it needs to be connected. So again, price is not the problem from my point. So if you have any questions, hopefully we have some time later on. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vincent. You have carried on what Mark did. All of us have understood that we are running behind schedule, so are the speakers. The shift in the European market to raw cashew nuts, and especially as a food ingredient, is a welcome move for the cashew industry in the world. And more importantly, they are prepared to pay a price for quality by us supplying to them with consistency in terms of the broken that are required in the food grade industry. From Europe, we now move to Japan, and when Japan, in the cashew world, one name which is synonymous is that of Mr. George Ishiguro of the Blackstone Corporation. I present to you George Ishiguro, my good friend, to give us an overview as to what's happening in Japan. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to talk about the Japan market. Japan cashew import has been seesaw affair since early 70s to 90s, between 2,000 and 4,000 tons of range. After 90s, seesaw range moved up to 4,000 to 6,000 tons for 20 years until 2010. Also, cashew price stayed rather in a narrow range, so which encouraged some of the snack and confectionery industries who were looking for new ingredients. The major change in nut market started around 2010. Many researchers on nut were introduced on TV, magazines, and which encouraged people not only in the food industries, but also outside as well. Since then, market has been steadily growing by 500 to 1,000 tons basis every year. And the market finally approached to our target level of 10,000 tons last year. Now look at the export countries into Japan. For the past 20 years, more than 90% of cashews were coming from India and Vietnam. While there are so many supplying countries, why do these two countries always keep high market share in Japan? There are three factors: quality, responsibility, sustainability of stable supply. Most of kernels come from packers with these three factors. Many of packers and buyers have been long business relations, and they know each other very well, and also each families as well. That's why Japan market looks a little bit conservative and close to newcomers. But our door is open for packers with three factors. I regret there is no chance for the packers once defaulted, indeed. This is the major distributing channels. In Japan, there are three major channels to distribute to the consumers: retailers, restaurants, and sweet shops. In regards to cashews, snack retailers are the largest channel. Among retailers, we call nut boutiques, which have been premium quality nuts, started to increase after year of 2010. Their sales are based on face-to-face, person-to-person relation. They pay most attention to clients' demands, and they always prepare to explain about their products' nutrition, including their backgrounds. In conjunction with these nut boutiques' growth, organic raw food and raw sweets are getting more and more popular. Now, if you come to Japan, it is very difficult to find deep-fried and salted nuts which go with beer. Our clients would admit that 70% of their products are dry roasted with no salt. This phenomenon came naturally from different sources. One is from doctors, professors of nutrition, and the other comes from beauty and healthcare consultants. Among them, the most popular person is Erika Angel, who you might know. She is an official consultant of Miss Universe Japan. She wrote a book to persuade that you have to be healthy if you want to be pretty. You need to take good oils, antioxidant food, etc., etc. Nut and dried fruits are always in her must items. Then she recommended to carry a tiny nut case every day. The nut must be dry roasted and salt-free to eat when you feel hungry. This is our current market divided into the high-end market and low-price market, but both are growing. Market bipolarization. After 2011 Japan tsunami, many of mothers with young kids started to pay more attention to their eating habit and became more selective. Many of them decided to buy organic food or processed food with no additives, depending on their budget. At the same time, new wave of suppliers started to open attractive stores, both online and real, everywhere in Japan. Both suppliers and consumers' goal naturally matches and develop into a new market. This market is highly supported by single working women with high disposable income. TV program, magazine about nuts have been educated people widely in Japan. Consequently, sales of all kinds of nuts has made a marvelous increase for the past 7 years. So market now and future. During 2015 and 17, cashew price jumped up by 45% plus minus, but fortunately, almonds and walnuts price dropped by 40 to 50%. So nut roasters and processors somehow managed to keep cashew price the same level for a while. But for spring of 2017, walnut price began to move up by 20%. Unfortunately, suppliers for bakeries had no time to raise their walnut price. On the other hand, almond supply became uncertain as a result of high insect damage and doubles. Under current circumstances, our roasters have been trying to raise cashew price, but some could and some couldn't yet. I have done my personal company's purchase until February shipment, but after March shipment, most of our clients are in a wait-and-see mood. They are still considering to raise the price to a profitable level or wait until kernel price come down further. Some are even considering to decrease their production and convert to other profitable kind of nuts for the time being. Now, how can we keep these sales in 2018 in future? I think these 3 points are the factor for us to keep the cashew increase, stable increase. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. It's heartening to know that over the last 7 years from 2010, having imported 6,000 metric tons of cashews, now Japan has crossed the magic figure of 10,000 metric tons. I remember George mentioning about it a decade ago that Japan had set before itself a target of 10K at the earliest. And ladies and gentlemen, the lion's share of promoting cashews in Japan goes to George Ishiguro. I would like you to put your hands together for this gentleman. From Japan, we move to the, so to say, the host country here, Hong Kong. I request Mr. Cheng Hung Ki to come and present the situation in Hong Kong as far as cashew consumption is concerned.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will have a very quick introduction about the market of cashews in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a very special market. The specific handling in Hong Kong is, you can see from the screens, Hong Kong is one of the world's leading international free trade zone in the world, and there is no import duty on cashews, and there is no VAT, value-added tax, in Hong Kong sales. The market is open for all origins, no specific origins that they preferred. And then there is no specific agent of brand. If your quality is okay, everybody can enter to Hong Kong. And cashew market is actually not a big market, not very big in Hong Kong. Talking about the history of Hong Kong cashew imports, and firstly, that's a very traditional market of Indian cashew kernels, as long as the Indian cashews industry was started in India. That's a long time ago. And then changed to China when China got involved with cashew processing in the 70s and 90s. So in those 20 years, China was the major supplier of kernels to Hong Kong. And then when China stopped processing cashew imports, and Hong Kong buyers changed to Vietnam because Vietnam immediately come to a major processors of cashew kernels. Now, cashew import is mainly from Vietnam and India, both. And this is a very consistent and reliable market on cashews. Now, when look back that we grow cashews in China and process in China, that's the two major areas that we process and grow and get cashew kernels for Hong Kong. Yeah, Hong Kong market is very special. The major size to Hong Kong is mainly W240s. That takes about 80% of the market shares. These 240s is mainly for Chinese cooking, snack, and retails for housewife. It's very, very special in these three channels of sales. And there is a very small market on 320s. So you may say that Hong Kong is a very luxury size of cashews. And there is very, very small and little market on the other sizes. And in Hong Kong, cashew kernel quality must be very supreme with no discoloring, no insect damage, and no infestation. And this is, I'm sure, that more than the other markets. And size must be uniform, even 240s. And then because there is a series of food safety and quality control by the health authority of the Hong Kong SAR government. Now, consumption of cashews in Hong Kong, it's about firstly 50% as a snack food for home cooking. That's very special. And a certain part as roasted and salted kernels under different brands in the supermarket and retailing shops. And about 30% of the Chinese cooking, this is very popular, the cashew kernels with something like very famous chop suey, the food, and chickens. Today, you taste it, and beef or pork. And about 10% of cashew kernels chopped into pieces in ice cream, bakeries, confectionery industries. Yes, the characters of cashew sales in Hong Kong, unlike other tree nuts, nearly 100% of the import of cashews is for Hong Kong local market. And there is very, very little import, export, re-export to like mainland China or the other areas. It's mainly for Hong Kong local. Now, this is something like the, show you the supermarket sales and the retailing in Hong Kong. And then the Chinese cooking and in the restaurant. And I'm sure tonight you may have this pan-fried prawn with cashews, I hope. And cashew with chop suey, this is very regular and popular. And then nuts distribution in the wet market, we call it. Now, cashew market in Hong Kong is really not that big. So look at the statistics. You can see from 2010 to November 17, because I could not get the later data from the Hong Kong customs. You see, it's quite consistent. It's in between something like 1,200 to 1,700 tons. That's the Hong Kong market size. So comparably, we could see from this chart, and Hong Kong is a big buyer of such as pistachios, almonds, and walnuts, but very little. You could not even see the line of cashews. That's very, very small. This is where we say this is not a big market. So that's my brief. That's my brief introduction about Hong Kong cashew market. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Cheng. We all must be grateful to Hong Kong for having maintained consistent levels of imports, and there are possibilities of its growth now that they have moved to the ingredients sector as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to the largest market for cashew consumption in the world, and that's India. And before that, I would like to present you Ms. Chen Yang, who will unfold to us as to what is in store for the entire cashew world when it comes to China. If Chinese decide to eat half a cashew nut once a week, I do not know where we could get the cashew nut from the length and breadth of the world. Over to Ms. Chen Yang.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. And I'm very glad to be here. And this is my first time to attend this conversation. And I had know many new friends and meet many old friends. And I think this conference is very fruitful. Now, I come from the China Chamber of Commerce. As you know that our Chamber of Commerce is belong to the Ministry of Commerce in China. And we have over 6,000 members. All of them are the importers and exporters of the agricultural products. Now, I'm very glad to share the information about the Chinese market of the cashew. On the screen, you will see that China, maybe you will pay attention to how to export to product to the China, especially for the cashew. But you will see that there is no restriction on China cashew import. Importers only need to pay tariff and VAT. But as you know that in recent years, Chinese consumers pay attention to the food safety. Your quality of the cashew and your products must be up to the national standards. And I also would like to share the very important information about the last year Chinese government decided. As you know that our President, Mr. Xi Jinping, on the Belt and the Road, and he said the Chinese people have the right to consume the more good products in the world. So China will open his market to the outside world. On these principles, last year, Chinese State Council Tariff Commission announced on the November 24th that he will adjusting the import tariff of the part of the consuming goods. It is announced and it is already complete on the December 1st of 2017, and many of the import tariff on some consumer goods is reduced his tariff. I think you will see the next screen, and you see that on this screen, the cashew in shell in the 2017, most of the time before the November is 20% in shell, but now is 70%. And for the kernels of cashew, it's 10% before, but now it's 7%. I hope this will increase China to import more cashew in the future. Now, let's look at this screen, and you will see this is the past 10 years China import the cashew from abroad. But you may make joke that this is very strange and puzzled by the quality China import from abroad. Maybe you think its status is very small, but I will also explain it to you. This is the futures is for the China official statistic, and just that is the custom statistic. But on this, you will see the trends of the China imported, and for the actually China imported, I will tell you later. And this is, as you know that China is a legal import and illegal import for the cashew. As you will see, in the first months of the, in the first 11 months of the 2018, China imports cashew is before increased than the 2016. And you will see that 2016, China, it is the very lowest import. Maybe you will, and also many of the delegates ask me why 2016 is a so small import from the abroad. I will tell you that there is two reasons. First, as I mentioned just now, that there is illegal trade for China cashew import. And this year, China official of customs, they are restricted and struggle for the illegal trade. So many of the people doing the illegal trade, they stop to import from abroad. This is the first reason. The second reason is that China is a price sentence market. In China, they import many of the tree nuts, not only the cashew, but also almond, pistachios, and hazelnuts, and also Chinese people would like to consume the sunflower seeds and other snacks also. So they are, instead of the cashew, very easy, is very easy. So the price of the cashew increased too much. Chinese market will refuse to import cashew again. So this year, and the quality of China import from abroad is very small. And last year, you will see the custom and is not as strict as before, and so the quality is a little recovered. This is the value. The tenth is the value is just compared to the qualities. From this chart, you will see that China from the which country? First, the largest is China import from the cashew from Vietnam. But it is on the chart, you will see the 2006. Vietnam called the 70% of Chinese market, but 2017, the Vietnam is reduced their China market. China is only not as also Nigeria, Congo, Mali, and other African countries. So you will see that China is enlarge his import channels. And this is the price we import. And from this chart, you will see actually the Chinese demand for the cashew. I think that in recent years, maybe China, the total import of the cashew is about 50,000 metric tons from abroad. These 50,000 is including legal and illegal trade. And I just mentioned the quality is we also, for our CFNA offer to the INC, we had do the many statistics for INC and work for them. We are the board members of INC. And on this chart, you will see that China, the consuming growth at 14% annually. Average is 52,000 metric tons. since 2014. And as you know that Chinese people prefer the roasted flavored cashew more currently and oiled blanched because that's Chinese people, they pay attention to the health again. Along with the Chinese people, the health and more, they is pay attention to the health. China is a market, is from they would like to eat more, changed to the eat healthy market again. Especially at the cold weather, will make the Chinese people eat more nuts in the winter season. Major sales is during the Spring Festival and the Mooncake Festival, and during this time. For the channel sale the nuts, you will see that e-commerce have become very important way of selling and buying the nuts consumption. As you know that in China, the e-commerce is very well development. Not only many people, especially for the young and generation, they would like to buy all of the things on the line. And China is finance is very popular in China. They will pay and buy the cargo and goods and not use the cash. They will buy the and the Apple Pay and just like that in China. If you would like to do the business with China, we sincerely welcome you to our China International Tree Nut Conference, which this year will hold in August 1 to 3 in Zhuhai, which is very near here. And mostly it's about 400 people attended. Most of them are the importers and the processors. Many of the key persons do the business with China. They already attended, and there is we had held it 7 times, and we sincerely welcome all of the world friends to participate. And I also would like to give you another information about the China import-export invitation. As you know that in May last year, our President Xi Jinping announced at the Belt and Road Forum for the International Cooperation that China will hold the China International Import-Export in November this year in Shanghai. And the CIIE will help the enterprises across the world to serve the business opportunity in the Chinese market, open a new channel for all countries and regions to do business, strengthen the cooperation with China. And our Chamber of Commerce is organizer of the food area. If you would like to attend it or have the exhibition fairs and the booths, you can contact with me and I will help you to do the business in China. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Chen. It's heartening to know the 2-digit CAGR that China has achieved. And also, I'm sure the coming China International Tree Nut Convention will propel the growth of consumption in China for cashews. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to India. Traditionally, for decades together, India was the largest producer of raw cashew nuts, the largest importer of raw cashew nuts from the rest of the world, naturally the largest processor, and the 3rd largest consumer in the world after US and Europe. Now today, India has the enviable position of the largest consumers in the world, and we have in Mr. Deepta Gupta, who is coming from one of the largest users of cashew in the ingredient industry, from the Kernel Foods Private Limited. He is a chemical engineer who has specialized in food specialties. He will throw light as to what's happening in India and the growth story in India. Over to Mr. Deepta Gupta.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am from the industry where your produce cashew nut is to be used and converted into a delicious food products. The Bikanewala is a 100-year-old company and our network in 70 countries now. We are running 2 brands, Bikanewala, with our retail chain of operations in 7 countries, and our Bikano product, which we call as our savory. We are making savory under that product, and our reach is in over 70 countries worldwide. Our global presence, you can see on monitor, if we combine our consumer base with Bikanewala customers and Bikano customers, the number will reach, it's the 13th most populated nation in the world. This is our reach in our customer base. Everybody knows that India is a booming economy and the retail sector is growing with a 20% year-on-year growth. It is expected by 2020 it is going to be double. Industry is growing with a different sector. We are into a ethnic sector, so we are covering namkeens, sweets, snacks, food curry and gift packs. These are the major area where we are consuming cashew, either in ingredients form or as a whole nut. This is a few things where we are using cashew. It is in our sweets, cashew sweets. It is the most popular sweets in India. Cashew with different nuts, we are making so many sweets. We are using cashew and other nuts as a decoratives or garnishing the product. As a gifting, India has a very healthy tradition of gifting. Most of the festivals are celebrating with the gifts exchange. So dry foods packs are most popular. We are using into a namkeens and savories. We call it as snacks and savories. So cashew is widely used in our namkeens as a whole, as a ingredients. Most interesting area in India, the cashew nuts is being used in our curries. Most of the premium curries is made by cashew. The most popular thing is Sahi Paneer and chicken curries, all are made with cashew paste. Nobody knows, this is a secret. We also use cashew in our chutneys. There's a coriander-based chutneys or mint-based chutney, we are using cashew to make their good tastes. Whole nuts, we are selling in different flavors. If you see the total market of India is 250,000 tons of, as reported by cashew nut industries. Out of that, India is the biggest market for ingredients. That is 60% of domestic production is going into ingredients and 40% as a whole nut. Further, if we bifurcate the market of cashew markets, the namkeen sector, especially the savory sectors, which we are into, is having a 40% consumption is in namkeen sector and 35% in under sweet section. Biscuit industry is taking 15% and ice cream 6% and food curries, which we are using in our restaurants, is 6%. In our industry, if you see the scenario, what we are using in different products, splits, whole nuts, 320 to 40. These we are using as ingredients. So 20% we are using as a whole nuts and 80% we are using as ingredients. This is an important thing. Ethnic market in India is having around 52% of market share. Out of that, we are using 120,000 as ingredients and 10,000 tons of as a whole nut. So altogether, ethnic segment is using 52% of cashew domestic production. But apart from this, we are facing a major problems in last couple of years when the automation started by the industry. Automation means we are improving the quality, efficiency, but I think it is in a transition phase in India from traditional process to automation process. So due to this transition, we are facing a continuous problem, just like a high FFA, husk on cashew, infestations, live beavers, dead beavers, stale productions, more brokens, black spot. These are the problems which is basically doing a problems with our products. Bitterness is due to husk, off color of the sweets, fumigation order in our products, oil marks of cashew on surface which causes the bitterness in taste, color variation during frying. A single lot, if you are processing with the cashew, we are getting a multi-colors in the frying stage. So it is very difficult to judge at the time of purchasing cashew, which cashew we have to purchase, because when we are frying, then we come to know that is a different colors or variation are there. Few of things which we are practically getting these problems: discoloration of the cashew. Husk is the major problem in last couple of years. Most of the suppliers are saying because of the automation, machine is not in a position to clear the husk on the kernels. But it is their problems, but industry is facing a problem. Your husk is not required by our industry. Shrinkage or kernels, infestation on seeds. It's very epidemic in last couple of years. Last year we faced a lot of problems with infestation in cashews. Price is a major challenge in last 2 years with cashew. It is a badly impact our business. If you see in 2012, the cashew LP price, we are using mostly LWP, so we have given this slide on LWP price. In 2012, we are buying at 340 rupees to 360 rupees. At the time, we are selling our product in 600 rupees, Indian rupees. But if you see in 2017, the cashew LWP price has gone up to 700 to 750 rupees a kg, and our product we are selling at 800 rupees kg. So our markup has gone from 43% to 11%. So industry is now not having too much interested in cashew nut, selling the cashew nut products. So we are replacing cashew nut with other nuts, like almond is taking a different place, especially if you say in gift packs. Gift pack sales basically with the price point. Everybody knows, everybody want to buy the gift and some 500 rupees or 1000 rupees range. So once the cashew price is high, then we have replaced the quantity of cashew nut with the almonds. In a similar way, our garnishing, our other different products, we have replaced cashew nut with other nuts. So this is a major challenge for industry. They have to work seriously for the price. Few slides we are skipping because in the morning session to tell so many areas has been covered. So these slides we are skipping. My only purpose is for putting these slides. We are facing a problem with the packaging. Industry had started vacuum packaging, but they replaced with basically the traditional tin packaging, but it is not sufficient for us. It is not giving a good shelf life to our products. It is my suggestion that industry can go for a more modified MAP solutions for the packaging so they can improve the quality of the product. There are so many solutions are available for MAP technology. If industry can go for that, the quality definitely will improve. Tins, due to these price constraints, the industry has cut down their cost and they are compromising with the tin quality also. Most of the time we are getting puncture tin, dents, rusted, no proper cutting systems. So ultimately the quality is going to be suffer. We are getting barrier breakage, live bevels. When we received and use it, then we are getting a lot of problems. GMP of a plants need to be improved because we are discussing so many things to upgradation, artificial intelligence, and so many things. but we have to work on ground level to improve the plant hygiene, worker hygiene. Till that, if we are not improving the quality of the worker and quality of the plant and environment of the plant, we cannot improve the quality. The first, we have to correct the basic at ground level. Otherwise, by putting a robotics or AI and so many things, you cannot give a good result. Because our basic worker is need to improve. The most important area is now R&D. Need to work on cashew seeds for the consistency of the productivity of the crop. My friends, if you see, United States has done a lot of work on almonds, and see the last 20 to 25 years of almonds history. Almonds is surplus throughout the world, and it is available to everybody. Their consumption has grown like anything, because United States government has worked on almonds. They work on the seeds, the method of cultivation, harvesting process, and they have given a consistent quality. But our industry need to focus on that level, ground level, where we can improve the seed quality and process parameters so we can get the consistent good quality of products. Automation efficiency, as I mentioned, definitely we have to go for automation, but parallelly, we cannot compromise the traditional process, what quality we are getting out of traditional process. Till that, if we are not efficient in automation, continuously we have to work to improve the quality of automation process. The very small technologies, X-ray, alpha toxin detection, SOTEX, these to be applied so we can improve the quality. And another important area for industry, where industry has to work seriously, that value-added products. Especially in cashew field, most of the processors are making only cashew, either in ingredients form or whole nut. But nobody is focusing on the value-added product, just like almond. So we are requesting you to develop just like a product, cashew nut, marzipan, cashew meals, cashew milks. So India is a big market for these things. Suppose if you start making cashew marzipan, we can convert your marzipan into a different kind of sweets. Why we have to produce in our plant with a lot of manpower, with a lot of problems are there. If industry is going to give that kind of product to us, we can convert into our products. It will be a win-win situation to both industry as well as us. It's a good time. India has implemented GST, one nation, one tax. So there is no barrier of south or north. It is a real time to interfacing industry with our actual user. So optimizing supply chain systems, and I think there is no need of middlemen. So as a result, industry can offer a better price. They can understand better our requirements, problems, so they can sort it out very easily. At last, I can say, in India, no other nut can replace cashew nut, because it is our nut. Everybody's liking of cashew nuts. India is a country of sweets, where sweets start from their birth to till that. Every occasion is having a sweets. No occasion go without sweets. And cashew nuts is the most important part of that sweet. So we are ready to support cashew nut industry wholeheartedly, so that both industry can flourish and prosperly together. Thanking you.
Thank you, Mr. Deepta Gupta. You have covered the growth story of India, the ethnic segment, and the challenges that we are confronted with. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we go to the interactive session, the question and answers, I would like all of you to put your hands together to this eminent panel of speakers who account for more than 80% of the cashew consumption in the world. We could not have asked for more. we have left with another 10 minutes. Srivastava is already standing there, gazing at me. So, and we will be taking half a dozen questions. Please be brief and to the point. We all have to move to the gala dinner. So you could kindly come up with the questions and please let us know whom you are addressing them to. The floor is now open.
Good evening. My question is for the Chinese representative here.
Yes.
Let's say if tomorrow if China starts importing RCN, would the duty concession for the LDC countries will apply as it is happening today in the case of sesame seed?
Chen, that's for you. Is asking about the LDC, least developed countries benefit accruing to raw cashew imports into China. Is that right? Yes.
Pardon, sorry.
This question is, there is what is called as a least developed country concept, where a concession is given when the raw cashew nuts are imported into the processing countries. Will that also apply to China? I think
It's already there in China for the
sesame seed.
Only for sesame seed duties.
Will that apply?
Sesame seeds duty is the same as the last year. But as you know that China is very paying attention to the very poor country in the world. There is 41 country, according to the United Nations per country, their sesame seeds enter into the Chinese market, and the tariff is 0, and the VAT is 11% now. Only I think is India, Nigeria, those major producing country, 2 major producing countries is not the 0. But as you know that Sudan is an opium, Tanzania, Mozambique, Mali, Somali, and nearly all of the other producing country is 0. I think that as you know that China at present is 1 million metric tons from abroad for a year now. As our Chamber of Commerce, as the Chinese import associations, we could apply the government to pay attention to this situation. And I think if it will adjust it, at the end of this year, we will say and apply for the government to adjust it. But I'm not sure it will accept it. If your country, I'm sorry, I don't know where I come from. If your country signed MOU with China, it will 0 at once. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
That's a bilateral issue, or could be multilateral. Any other questions? Looks like this presentation have been so enlightening that everybody has understood everything.
One question to the Chinese representative. What is the reason of China preferring almonds over cashews, whereas cashew is the most preferred nut? I mean, is it the high import tariffs to China, or is it the taste preference? I mean, what was the reason of the decline in the consumption?
Yeah. As you know that last year I attended the meeting discussion about the China State Council to reduce the tariff, and they think that, as you know that they think for the pistachios there is 5% for the tariff, and almond is 10%. So as the pecan, macadamic, and casual, just like this, some is 20%. They think that that is a little higher, so they reduce it. But they think that pistachios and almond 10% is not too much higher. So they not adjust it. I think this year we will attend the meeting and discuss I hope we could adjust it because China will import in tree nuts, and Chinese people would like to consume the more healthy tree nuts. Yeah.
Thank you. Srivastav? Thank you very much. Once again, a big round of applause to this panelists who are the experts in their own right, and they have presented a wonderful overview of the consumption pattern and the growth story which is in store for us. Ladies and gentlemen, to wind up, a few points which have emerged from out of these presentations. Rising prices for cashews can be a barrier, is certainly a cause of concern, and can, to a certain extent or to a certain percentage, there could be a migration to pear nuts. The shift from flavored and nuts to raw cashews as a healthy tree nut is certainly welcome. The success story of India has been its diversification, promotion primarily in the food ingredient industry, which is huge. If not for that, I, as an Indian processor, would say we would not have been probably risen to the level we have been able to operate with. Now the question is, will the price be sustained? We have come to a stage where $5 has been accepted by and large for W320s. But if that is going to be a barrier with other tree nuts becoming more competitive, then cashew has a threat. This has to be addressed with all the stakeholders working in tandem. And that can happen not by making sure that the farmer gets a less price for his produce, but the farmer gets more realization in terms of the productivity that he has in his farm. All nations will have to, cashew producing states will have to work very closely, especially in the African continent, which is sure to be the provider of raw cashew nuts through the length and breadth of the world. Ultimately, what is most important for us would be to promote the consumption of cashews. Among all the tree nuts, cashews are the most preferred nuts. This is an expression made by people who are in almonds, pistachio, and all other tree nuts industries, saying that cashews are the most preferred nuts, the least promoted nuts. So we have to come together and see that we promote cashews and we have an exponential growth in terms of consumption, which will help everybody from farm to fork. It will be a big mover in terms of the growth story of cashew. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your presence here. Yeah. Would you like to have a forecast for 2018, how the industry will fare? Numbers, yes, I know. In terms of the numbers, do you have anybody would like to say anything? Mark? 2018, will it be on par with 2017? Will there be a growth or will there be a degrowth? Is that right?
I need to take out my crystal ball. I guess that's the question everybody wants to know is what's going to happen with the price this coming year. I could say that at least in the U.S. market, we are facing some headwinds. As I was alluding to before, that these prices are resulting in some challenges with consumption. I think it's not dramatic. Cashews do sell themselves, and many buyers are price insensitive, that if they go in to buy cashews, they're going to buy cashews whether the price is 5 or 10% higher or lower. But all the retailers do say it's having some impact in two different ways. Either the price on the shelf has to go up significantly to reflect the higher prices on the FOB market, or the margins at retail come down. And if the margins come down, the retailers are less incentivized to push the product. The promotions will move to almonds, and there'll be less promotions on cashews, so they'll put less cashews in the mixed nuts. It takes time for them to make all these changes. These changes are happening because of the market, so there is a little bit of a headwind. Not dramatic, but a little bit of a headwind in the US. So I would say, and I've heard similar, I think, from many people on this panel. So you look at a lot of the different countries, and we are facing some minor challenges to demand. Then the other question is supply. I wish I knew where the crops will be. I think the feedback from this conference has been that crops look good, but it's still very early. None of us can be certain. In the end, I think supply and demand have to play out, and that's going to be the end driver of what happens in this market.
Thank you, Mark. Vincent, yeah, do you think $5 is a price, which the European buyers would fall in line and without hurting the consumption, without hurting the demand?
To make it pretty short, the answer, overall, I do think, as we are expecting basically good crops in most places, I do actually expect that cashews will trade at probably slightly lower prices the second half of this year. However, as I said in my presentation, cashews in competition with other competing nuts, like especially almonds, we have seen that the almond consumption is already in the first month dramatically up, and we expect this to continue. So therefore, I do actually think that if we can keep the consumption in Europe stable, I think that's already a success. But I do fear a little bit that the consumption will be damaged. Even if the cashew price does come down, what we are all hoping for, at least a little bit, the retail shelf prices are fixed until the end of 2018. Yes. So even if the prices come down, the earliest effect might be in Jan 2019. So therefore, let's hope for a stable consumption and then
stable prices, stable consumption. Right. Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you to the moderator and the panelists. And moving quickly along the timeline, we have to do our mementos. So let's get started with that. If I can please request our moderator to present our first memento to Ms. Chen Ying, Director, Oils and Cereals, CCC FNA. Next up would be Mr. Cheng Hung Kei, Managing Director, CHK Trading Company Limited. Next up, Mr. Deepta Gupta, Executive BP Bikanerwala Foods Private Limited. Next would be Mr. George Ishiguro, Managing Director, Blackstone Corporation, Japan. Next, Mr. Vincent Rickman, ATCO. And Mr. Mark Rosenblatt, the Richard Franco Agency, Inc. May I please also request Mr. James Abrowski to come on stage, Project Director, TechnoServe Benin.